Today we're going to talk about one of the confusingly named plant groups here in Papua New Guinea. And I say confusing because, well, there's several plants here which, depending who you're talking to, all get called pit-pit. And while they're all in the grass family, they're not otherwise closely related, and they're not even all used similarly. So let's delve into this a little bit. Now, the most widespread use of the term pit-pit is to refer to the edible vegetables. So let's look at those ones first. Now, there's two species here in Papua New Guinea, highland pit-pit and lowland pit-pit. Both of them are native to here, domesticated here a long time ago, and have since spread into other areas of the globe. So this is the lowland pit-pit. And some of you may be able to guess just by looking at it, but this is actually a species of sugarcane, which was also domesticated here in New Guinea, by the way. And this one is sweet too, but it's been domesticated quite a bit differently. This time not for the sugars in its stem, but instead actually for its flowers. So it looks similar to sugarcane, also getting up to about 4 meters if you let it get that high. But you'll notice also the leaves are thinner, the stem is a bit more flexible, and you can see at the top of this one that there's a bulge here. And that means it's ready to eat. When you open this up, you see a flower structure that's not quite developed and very tightly packed in there. And the thing is, because of how this is bred, it will never develop, and this sheath around it will never open. If you leave it in here much longer, the flowers will just rot. And when you see this in plants, that they're not able to develop proper flowers or seeds, typically that's a sign that this isn't their wild form, and that they've been domesticated that way by humans. Such things can arise in nature by random mutation, of course, but unless humans step in and start replanting and cultivating that mutated plant, typically it'll just die out. You can see this in a number of our cultivated plants, like bananas or pineapples, seedless grapes, saffron. They can't produce seeds, so they have to be cloned in order to be spread. And that's what happens here too. See, these plants can spread themselves a little bit just by growing out as clumps from the roots, but that's a somewhat limited way to spread. Mostly it's humans that spread them. Because it forms these dense clumps and also likes a lot of water, this can be a great plant for putting next to rivers to prevent erosion from happening there. And this is the part you eat here. Really easy to cook. It's tender enough so you can just eat it raw if you want, or you can steam it, roast it lightly, cook it with greens, cook it with meat, put it in soups or curries. It's pretty versatile. It's got a bit of sweetness to it, but otherwise it's a bit like cauliflower. You can find this in a few different varieties as well. There's more than 10 different varieties, some different colors. This is a white one here, but you can also find it in red and purple as well. And now it's also growing in parts of Indonesia and Melanesia as well. In Fiji, they're actually starting to market it as Fijian asparagus, just a marketing thing. It's not actually related to asparagus, but I guess it looks kind of similar. And this is the other edible pit-pit here, highland pit-pit. And as I mentioned already, it's not the same species as the lowland pit-pit, and it's not even in the same genus, and it also doesn't look very much alike, apart from its grass-like growth habit. Much wider, more textured leaves, a different growth pattern, and sometimes stripes of color on the leaf like you see here. You may actually have seen this before. In a lot of places around the world it is planted as an ornamental, generally going under the name of palm grass, and in some places it has become pretty invasive as well, because it does spread itself quite easily. But the vegetable you get from it looks and tastes fairly similar to the other pit-pit. Here though, it's the stem that you eat. And a lot like with bamboo shoots, if you take it when young and peel back the upper leaves, you'll find a whitish part that's very tender and can be eaten basically every other way that I said for the other pit-pit. So that's the highland pit-pit. Now here's the odd part. Those two are both referred to as soft pit-pits, and as you might imagine, there's also the hard pit-pit. But the hard pit-pit isn't much like the soft pit-pit. In fact, I think it's probably a species of bamboo, and its uses aren't food-related at all. It's just practical. But nonetheless, it is a very important plant for survival here. Compared to some of the larger, thicker bamboos, this one is thinner and more flexible. Flexible enough that this one is used for weaving and making bowstrings. This is a hut actually mixing old and new construction methods, but the walls here are traditional. And the crisscross weave pattern you see here is made from pit-pit. The structural support comes from the boards behind it, but the weave is fairly strong too, and great as a windbreak. But pit-pit is strong enough that sometimes the spears and arrows here are also made from it. Like this one you can see here. Sometimes spears and arrows are the same things, just simply depends whether you're throwing it or firing it out of a bow. This spear here you can see is actually a combination of pit-pit and black palm. Sometimes they were even bundled and used as a simple mattress, and reportedly one of the more comfortable traditional mattresses for that. So, those are the pit-pits around here, a diverse little group of plants without much in common other than being large, useful grasses. And sometimes that's as good a categorization as any. But anyways, that's all I have for this week. As always, if you have any corrections, suggestions, or passing remarks, feel free to comment that down below. And if you like this video, learned something, and would like to see more, liking and subscribing always really helps me out. This video is made on behalf of the Goroka Natural Habitat, a place looking to preserve a slice of Papua New Guinean highland forest for education, research, enjoyment, and to teach people to cultivate honey at the same time. A huge thank you to Kelly Enai for letting me stay here and supporting this project. If you're looking for a great place to volunteer as a researcher, carpenter, teacher, beekeeper, fish pond specialist, mushroom grower, or any of other numerous other specialties, this is a great place to do it. So for more practical and otherwise interesting plants of Papua New Guinea, join me next time on Ambling with Sam.